Hey everyone, I'm the Idea Maker, and today I'm going to be giving my official review on Piece by Piece, which is the Lego documentary about the one and only musician Pharrell Williams. So I'm going to make this as with the least amount of edits as possible, especially because that there's a lot of things that I want to get to into this review, and I want to make it as genuine as possible and get all of my thoughts very collected and very extremely thought out because that there's a lot to process into this movie, and especially because I don't think this has really been done before. I might be wrong, but I feel like this is something that I think that it hasn't really been done recently, and especially because that when you do a documentary, you would want to feel like it's going to be a serious thing, but the fact that Pharrell went and decided to go ahead and make a documentary about himself and have it set in an animation style by using Legos is pretty impressive. And when I remember listening to this on the news and I was looking through the internet about this, I really thought about it and I thought, how is this going to work? I thought maybe this actually could be a good idea because of the fact that you could do a lot with animation that you can't really do in live action. Because with live action, you have to involve yourself into CGI, you have to involve yourself in a whole bunch of different things like practical effects. But with Lego, you could be able to tell a story differently compared to what you would be expecting. And I thought about this more, and when I saw the first trailer for it, which I didn't react to it, but I saw it, I thought, you know what, this could actually work. And the more that I started thinking about it, the more that I thought there's going to be a lot of creativity that's involved in this. So when I walked into the movie, I felt like if my first pre-thought before the movie was that this is going to be something that the kids and the adults are going to enjoy equally. So when I walked out, I do believe that kids will enjoy it because of the Lego visualization and the style, but I also feel like this isn't something that I think that is going to be for more for the younger kids. I feel like younger kids will go see it because it's Lego. Story-wise, though, this is more for the teens and adults. And it feels a little weird on even saying that, especially for a Lego movie. And you would think that a Lego movie would be something for the younger kids and for the adults alike. But there's a lot of stuff in here that I wasn't expecting for them to dive right into. But I also should have thought, okay, they're going to dive a lot right into these things, especially because it's a documentary about an artist who's also a great producer in producing and creating some of the most iconic beats for different people in the hip hop community and in the R&B community and for those in pop. And the thing is that I guess I was thinking along the lines of, I don't think they're going to show much. They showed more than I was expecting, but they also added their own spin to it, which was pretty cool. So I really want to admit that this movie really captivates audiences both stylely and with its storytelling. And I feel like with its storytelling, that's what got me. So I'm going to admit, because of my grandma passed back in August of 2024, I actually broke down crying during this movie several times, especially with the scenes that was talking more about Pharrell's childhood and his time that he had with his grandmother, because of the fact on how I had a similar relationship to it. And when it comes to a pivotal scene, which I'm not going to get into for this one because of the fact that to me, it's going to be a spoiler. And I know that it feels weird on saying spoiler alert for this one because it's a documentary, but I think that out of respect to, I want to say that I don't even want to mention it in case if you guys are going to see it, but this is one scene that made me ugly cry like that I have not done so in a long time. I haven't ugly cried at all since Black Panther Wakanda Forever, especially with T'Challa and his death, and the fact that they had the funeral for both T'Challa as the character and Chadwick Boseman, and then the end credit song. But this one made me ugly cry for so many reasons because of the emotions that I was feeling. That at the moment, I feel like life hasn't really given me a chance to be able to grieve into more in the way that I've been wanting to, with the way how we just keep getting things thrown at us more and more and more. And this movie actually let me relieve some of my emotions that I was having during the time that I was listening to the music and watching the movie. And I was feeling a lot of different emotions with this one, especially I think that maybe I ugly cried twice, because the second time had to be during when they showed Daft Punk's involvement with Pharrell. And the reason why was because when I was a kid, back in 2013, I remember listening to Random Access Memories, and the first song that I heard from Daft Punk and Pharrell was not Get Lucky, but it was Lose Yourself to Dance, and that ended up being my grandma's favorite song from Daft Punk, and it just was history from there. I got to know exactly who they were. I didn't know who they were at first because I was a little kid. First time I really actually got to hear them was Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, but it was over the radio and it was over at the store. And I remember that. And then back in 2009/2010, I was over at Disneyland's California Adventure Park, and my mom and I went to see a sneak peek of Tron Legacy when they had it over at the Muppet Vision Theater, and I heard Daft Punk's music. I didn't know who they were until fast forward to the 3 years later in 2013, and that's when I saw their music video on Lose Yourself to Dance, and I was so captivated by the fact that there were these two guys in robot helmets, that they were trying to keep up the robot persona, and they had Pharrell there and Nile Rodgers there on the music video with everybody dancing in a spaceship. It was super cool, and it was super exciting to see something different, and it was just a dream from there because of the fact that when do you see that often? You don't. You don't see that often. And I felt like with this story, I'm talking about how Pharrell, grew up in these apartment complex homes, and just having this taste and this hunger for music, and the way he would visualize the music when playing the records on a record player, and just getting to see the colors that he would feel like the music would make, and then taking it to the next extreme and to the next level. And then me not knowing that he actually grew up with several other artists in the hip hop and rap community, which was pretty cool. And they grew up with them, and that they were, making music whenever they wanted to, when they found the chance, and just taking that and making it a part of their careers and everything. It was something else because I understood a lot of how Pharrell felt with his creativity and the way that he would be thinking about what type of beats he was going to make. And I thought about it more. I thought about how, later on down the road, how this actually helped them to not only go and take this into a creative standpoint on where he was in his own life, but it also helped them to navigate back to where he started from. Because it does mention that, he did have a period of time where he went and he didn't really go with his own flow, and that he let the decisions of those at the higher corporate level, take over his ideal creative thoughts and wanted to create something bigger. And of course, he wanted to do as much as possible, which is something that I kind of relate to when it comes to the channel. And, like he wanted to do everything. He wanted to do as many things as possible because he felt like he could be able to prove that he can be able to do more than what people were giving him credit for. And with relating to me in ways of that he was able to visualize music through colors, I'm actually, in my opinion, I'm able to visualize different scenes when it comes to music. So ever since I was a kid, when I would listen to music, and this started happening when I was about, I would say about 11 or 12. I don't remember what it was. And I remember starting to visualize scenes for songs that I've heard. It was just very brief, very minimum, but it just was not something that I would ever think of. And then once I started listening to Daft Punk and I started listening to other artists, I remember thinking, this would be super cool if there was a music video that went this way, and without me even knowing, there would most of the time be a music video for a song that I didn't even know that existed. And I thought about it more about how, from a creative standpoint, that's actually something that maybe a lot of people do. But then again, I don't know about how other people would be able to visualize music or be able to visualize these different types of components together and be able to make it work simultaneously. So the more that I thought about this, the more that I started seeing myself in how Pharrell's thoughts were in his creative process. And I love how when during this process, on how he didn't even know where he was going to go, there's a line in there that it's not even much of a, I don't know if this is much of a spoiler, but if it is, then you guys can fast forward it to when I mentioned that it's not in this little spoiler part, but there's a piece where he's talking to his pastor about what exactly should I be, how should I approach this type of situation when it comes to this record deal that he was trying to be a part of, because he loved music so much. And the pastor, from what I remember, because this was from a Thursday showing, so this was from yesterday, and he mentions to him saying that that if anybody was to make a decision about anything, that if it's too difficult, then the one way to do it is to let God take over. And when he said that he did, it made me reaffirm more on that's how I'm going to take things. I've already taken things with me knowing that God's going to take over and guide me in the way that I need to go in order for me to be able to prosper in a life and in a world that's full of chaos and full of the worst things possible, especially because that people can't get along with each other. People can't see things in a civil manner, which this movie does get into. It does get into different topics about how it was growing up in a community where people might have thought that it was the pits, they thought it was the ghetto, they thought it was everything that was so wrong with society. And then, coming from there and being able to produce some of the most amazing things, and also showing how even when kids, which as I mentioned, that I probably mentioned in one of my earlier videos, or I mentioned in one of my upcoming videos, that I hate it when kids go and they start making fun of other kids, saying this person's different, this person is weird, this person is insane, and they don't understand the fact that it's not because that they're weird, it's not because that they're different. It's more because that they see the world in a different way that they can't understand, because that they see their world. They see the world as in their own viewpoint, and then Pharrell was seeing the world in his own viewpoint. He had a lot of a creative imagination going on as a kid. As an adult, with him making this movie and partnering up with Lego to be able to tell his story in a very creative way and in a very creative manner, that I think that if he was to have done this in a different way, I don't think it would have worked as well as it did with this one. And with that being said and being laid out on the table, I feel like Piece by Piece is one of the most inspiring documentaries I've ever seen, both visually and storytelling wise. And I really feel like the creative processes that he was taking feels like a lot like my own. And especially because when I make videos, I usually don't like to do things like how everybody else does it. Sure, it's nice for me to keep up with the mainstream things that are going on, which is what Pharrell was doing for a little bit of a time, until there was from what I remember, that there was a certain point of his career where things started to dip and things started to turn around. But then once he was involved with Daft Punk to create Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance, and then when he created the song Happy for Despicable Me 2, I felt his story even more, especially because of how, I was turning lives around. It was turning his life around and making him realize about what's more important, especially when it comes to him feeling like he wants to be able to accomplish so much. And then with the fact that he mentioned that his family and his friends were all wanting for him to win, and he felt like that was all that he could ever need. That's what I feel when it comes to my family, and that's how I felt when it came to my grandma, because all she wanted for me to do was succeed in life. And sometimes with success, it's going to take a long process, and it doesn't matter in what you're wanting to do. And for me, it's more trying to achieve success in engineering. And of course, with this channel, I'm trying to do my best to see if I could help support my family as best as I can. But I want to be able to not only focus on that, but I also want to focus on another aspect as to why this channel was started. It started because of the fact that my grandma, when she was alive, she wanted to have me more often around the house, but she knew that she couldn't because I had weird work schedules that didn't really give her a lot of time to see me. So I started this channel so that way she can watch videos of me being able to react to shows and reacting to movies, so that way she could feel like I was still in the house. My mom with her and her job at night, and then her still trying to find a different one in the day in her profession that she's been doing for a long time. It takes a lot out on a person. And then with everything with my grandma going to dialysis during that time, it was something that I feel like it was the best decision to make, because my grandma would be watching my videos. She would even be commenting on them, loving how my videos were. It really made me feel proud. When she passed, I wanted to do my best to be able to try to see if I can use this channel to be able to help my family out in a monetary way. But then I was trying to figure out what's going to be my best thing on doing this channel. And then I thought about it, and as I was experimenting, and I'm still experimenting, as I was doing so, I started thinking about this, and I started realizing these throwbacks videos that I'm reacting to, like Oswald, and later on down the road, I'm doing an anime reaction to Pataponamanta, which is an old anime back in the early 2000s and the late 2000s, early 2010s, and it really made me think, if Pharrell was doing good with creating his own beats and creating his own music, and it was becoming mainstream on its own because of his individual creativity instead of following everybody else's, and it gave like a brand new sound to multiple genres of music. I feel like I could be able to do the same when it comes to my channel and be able to not only use it to still honor my grandma's legacy in her life by telling stories of hers that in the memories that I had of her within the videos that I have, but also be able to use it to be able to bring that sense of nostalgia and happiness to others by reacting to these older movies and older shows that maybe, people haven't remembered. And I've been getting some other different requests from a couple of my subscribers, which is incredible. For instance, this subscriber right over here on my left, he wishes that I could react to the Beatles cartoon, which I would love to. I would love to find it on YouTube or on streaming or somewhere. And this YouTuber right over here, this subscriber wants me to react to an old show that I haven't even seen in a long, long time. If any of you guys are familiar with the series Adventures in the Book of Virtues, it's been a long time since I remember that. And I'm starting to look for it. And I thought, you know what, maybe this would be a great idea to be able to react to and be able to give some sort of commentary on it, to be able to add more onto the lessons that were given. And then even the one below me even thought about me reacting to Rugrats. And that's such a huge thing, because that now there's a couple of people that are thinking, what if you did this or that? My mom, for instance, even thought about asking me, what if I reacted to an older movie from Disney that was back in the 90s that maybe you guys might not have even heard of, or maybe you guys have heard of or seen, but it's been a very, very long time, which I've seen a couple times back when I was a kid. If any of you guys are familiar with Rocket Man, which stars comedian Harlan Williams, that's one that I'm going to be doing for November, so keep that one in mind. But you see what I'm saying? The whole thing with Pharrell, tying it back to Piece by Piece, with Pharrell, that he was not wanting to do the same things that everybody else was doing, and he wanted to stand out, and he wanted to be different. It's what makes him him. He does things that are so different compared to other different artists, and he has a brand new sound that makes him so distinct compared to other people. He has this ability to be able to make himself stand out compared to other artists. And you can kind of tell, well, no, actually not kind of. You can tell that it's his signature on other artists' songs, because he has this ideal creative mind that makes him go and do this thought, to go into this thought process and be able to turn it into a reality and create these songs that we all know from different genres that span from different decades is absolutely insane. And then visually with this movie, it made me feel like I was back in the theater watching the Lego movie back from 2014, which was a movie that my grandma and I saw in the theaters. I'm going to say this 5 times. It was so cool. It was so fun. And it made me feel like a kid again. It made me feel like that this nostalgia is coming back. And it made me be inspired about the fact that I could still be able to hopefully make a difference in somebody's life with my videos. Because the first person I made a difference to was my grandma's. And when she was alive, she told me on how much of a difference the videos made in her life, because then she felt like she wasn't by herself. She felt like if she still had me in the house while I was at work, and then getting to watch them over and over and getting texts from her saying how proud she was of my videos, and when I would call her on the phone during my breaks and in my lunch, depending on my shift, she would be proud of what I've created, what I've done, and was blown away with what I can do. And I want to be able to continue that with others and be able to try to continue to blow them away with what I can be able to do. And I know that YouTubers have their own different style. on what they want to do with their reaction videos, and I congratulate them, especially because that they have their own distinct style and they have inspired others to be able to take that same initiative and take that same step towards wanting to react to them. And I decided to take this approach because personally, I wouldn't want for people to see what I look like. I want for it to just be an anime avatar and a voice that people could be able to recognize or possibly recognize, and just keep it at that. Something that makes it feel like if it's like a cartoon character getting to come to life and be able to have and converse with others in a conversation. Sure, my thoughts are a little all over the place on this one, but there's just so much going on in Piece by Piece that it made me really want to try to get my thoughts organized with this, but I couldn't because of how spectacularly done this movie was, and especially with going behind the scenes of different songs on how they were written and how Pharrell made a big difference in a lot of artists' lives and in their due thought process of how they did music and how they do all these other different types of things that people don't expect for them to do. And that he's collaborated with a lot of musicians. I mean, he grew up with Pusha T. He grew up with Missy Elliott. He grew up with Timbaland. He had formed the Neptunes, man, and then he did music with Gwen Stefani and Justin Timberlake and Snoop Dogg, Daft Punk, Kendrick Lamar, and so many others. It's just so many to name. Busta Rhymes, I'm thinking Jay-Z. It's crazy. This dude has accomplished a lot in his life. And it makes you really wonder, how much could I be able to accomplish in my life if I just stuck with my creativity and I stuck with my way of doing things? Because there's a lot that you could be able to accomplish in a lifetime. Question is how are you going to go and try to accomplish it? I get it that sometimes a dream could be financially burdensome, especially when you're living in a financial situation where it doesn't work out the way that it does. Currently, that's how it is with me right now, especially because after my grandma passing, it's been a little bit of a burden, some with not even financially at this point. It's more of like an emotional burden and even more of like a mental burden and trying to process everything. And with the way that life has been throwing different things at us, like our plumbing situation that we have to now fix up the drywall, and with having to fix things because of my grandma's passing, and having to rearrange the floors, the rooms, and the floors because of some of them getting wet spots because of the hotline bursting. And then other things, including, rearranging the rooms, the furniture, clothing, our lifestyles. And with life, and sometimes work, not letting us take the time to be able to process things and grieve in the way that we need to be able to process it does not help. So with me doing these videos and me keeping this channel up, because originally I would have taken this channel down when my grandma passed. But in order for me to grieve and in order for me to process everything, videos is what makes me feel like I'm able to process everything in a way that I could be able to do it without having to feel like if I'm doing it wrong. Because there's no right or wrong when it comes to grieving. There's no right or wrong when it comes to trying to process everything. There's no right or wrong on how long it should take. Because the thing is that it could take years. It could take multiple amount of years. It could probably take a couple of years depending on the person. But, for some that they're still in mourning for the rest of their lives. My grandma, for instance, when her mom died, when my great-grandmother died, she took it hard because of the fact that she helped take care of her, especially when my great grandmother was getting more sick, and that she ended up having to go on dialysis, and she didn't even make it past one treatment, and it's scary. And I thought, my great grandmother only made it past one treatment, but my grandmother, on the other hand, made it almost 6 years worth of dialysis treatments. And then on top of it, most doctors constantly treating her and the other dialysis patients like if they're cattle, like if they're just a number, like if they're just an individual that is just part of a statistic and not part of a society where it's full of people. They see more profits and more of a way to be able to somehow profit off of them. And it's tough for me to even go into these different topics, especially because of the fact that it is a difficult thing to be able to consider and to think about. But it also does help with processing everything. And that's another thing that I feel like piece by piece also helps you do, is that if you're going through a tough time, it helps you to escape. It's a movie about escapism, but it's also a movie that reflects about what we want to see in society and what we want to see in our lives. We don't want to see the reality anymore because of how depressing and how anxious it gets, especially with the way how life treats you, and sometimes how it kicks you to the curb and just doesn't want to do with you anymore. And this movie really made me reaffirm myself. Wow. I've had friends, I've had coworkers, I've had family tell me it shouldn't matter on how you grieve, how you do it, and how long it takes, because that everybody works differently. And I want to give a very special thank you to Pharrell himself, because this movie made me realize it's okay to be creatively different compared to other people. It doesn't matter that if you're a musician or a writer or an actor or a YouTuber or even in your just ordinary career. A lot of what your words said, Pharrell, is exactly what my grandma said. And a lot of what your grandmother's words said to you when you were growing up were exactly words that my grandma said as well. My grandmother was the one that took care of me while my mom was a single parent. And for the amount of times that the amount of days and the amount of years, amount of time that she was alive, I'm so grateful to God that I was able to get to spend that time with her and be able to get to just be with her and be able to have somebody to confide in and talk to, and I'm grateful for that. It gave me a little bit more of a closure, and it gave me more time to really think about my life, where I wanted to go, and how I want to be able to honor my grandmother's legacy and be able to honor her final wishes that she told me for years before she passed. And I think that with this, this is something that I think that a lot of people, that everybody should go see. Now, despite it being a PG rating, just be precautious that it does have some elements in there that it might not be suitable for young kids. So just be precautious of that. And if you are willing to watch this movie after this review, then in the description below, I'm going to have a link to Fandango, so that way you guys can be able to get your tickets for the Lego documentary Piece by Piece, which is now in theaters in the US. It'll be out in theaters in other different countries at later dates. But I hope that you guys could be able to watch this movie and be able to get to experience it the way how I did, and be able to not only just watch it and hear it, but like really absorb it and take it all in and listen to the music, listen to the message and experience it as an event, not as a movie. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. So think about it. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching my review for Piece by Piece. If you guys are excited about this movie, like I said, there is a link in the description for getting your tickets over at Fandango right now to go see Piece by Piece in the theaters right now. If you guys want to see more videos like this, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social media, if you are on the Idea Maker YouTube channel, then you guys can follow me on my Snapchat, my Instagram, my Twitter, aka X, my Discord, and my Discord server, and my TikTok, which all the links will be in the description below. And if you guys are watching on the other channel, the Idea Maker for Kids channel, which this one's going to be more of a video where it's going to be more for the older kids in their teens. So I'll put a label on that in the beginning for that video. Then you guys can follow me on my Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok accounts, which those links will be in the description below. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you all. Stay safe. I'll see you all in the next videos. Bye, guys.